Welcome into the Pelicans schedule breakdown. I'm Caroline Gonzalez, joined by Pelicans radio play-by-play announcer Todd Graffagnini. Todd and I will be looking at some of the matchup for the Pelicans in their remaining schedule as they head to Disney. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at how the NBA restart will look. Next week, teams will arrive in Orlando to begin their training camps at Disney. And then on July 21st, inter-squad scrimmages will begin for teams. In just about a month, on July 30th, seeding games will begin for teams. Now, these seeding games are representative of what the remaining schedule was for these teams before the league suspended play. If necessary, a 2-game play-in series will occur among teams to determine the number 8 seed in each conference. And then, on August 17th, playoffs will begin. Here's a look at the Pelicans' schedule. They will kick things off against the Utah Jazz on July 30th. They have the easiest strength of schedule among teams taking part in these seeding games. As you can see, they play the Kings twice. Only 3 of their 8 games were against current playoff teams. Todd, obviously a favorable path for the Pelicans to secure that number 8 seed, which Memphis currently holds. Which games do you have your eye on for the Pelicans?
Well, Caroline, I've got my eye on all of them, considering there's only 8. But look, when you get down to it, they're so important. And that first game against Utah is really going to be a tone setter. And I guess it's kind of ironic that the Pelicans were picked to open the regular season. Remember back in Toronto, that seems like a lifetime ago. And now they're opening the restart, if you will, in Orlando against the Utah Jazz team that we have had some battles with this year, especially those 2 in the Smoothie King Center. No one's ever going to forget the Brandon Ingram 49-point performance. The Pelicans won in overtime. Probably the most entertaining game of the year. And if you take those 2 games in January with the Utah Jazz, they were basically the same. No team got out more than a 7-8 point lead the entire time. It was hotly contested. And of course, Ingram, we thought he hit that game-winning shot in regulation in that second game, only to see Rudy Gobert make the free throw with 0.2 of a second left. And then the Pelicans win in overtime. But here's something for you. The Utah Jazz have not seen Zion Williamson. Those 2 games in January were prior to Zion's return. Now, here's another key that could be a big factor in this. Bojan Bogdanovic is not going to play for the Utah Jazz. He is out with a right wrist injury, so he is not making the trip down to Orlando. He had 35 points in that Utah 2-point win against the Pelicans at the Smoothie King Center. So that is a big chunk of their offense that's not going to be in this game. But obviously you want to get off to a good start. Then a couple of games later, after the Clippers game, the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, so much has been said about the budding New Orleans-Memphis rivalry. You go Zion Williamson versus Ja Morant, but that's not really how it's going to shape up. The Drew Holiday, Ja Morant matchup has been such a key in those first 2 games where Drew has effectively neutralized Morant's way to penetrate, and he's just not been able to get off scoring as he has most of the year. So that's going to be a factor. Also, how Memphis tries to counter what Alvin Gentry is going to do as far as playing small ball. In the MLK Day game in Memphis, Nicolo Melli was a huge key because Valanciunas would not come out to get Nico Melli. And that actually opened the floor up, and the Pelicans were able to just light them up from 3. And it's been a favorable matchup. Now, both teams are going to be fully healthy, which was not the case the last game in the Smoothie King Center when Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark did not play. They should be available for Memphis. But obviously that's the team you're chasing, Caroline, and you want to be able to get a victory. You have 2 wins over them already, though tie breaks now in this situation aren't really much of a key anymore. But obviously going to be a big game there. And then the other game that I'm going to be looking at closely is the San Antonio game. Another team you are going up against directly as far as records go. They've already beaten you one time. That was the Zion Williamson return game on January 22nd, a game nobody's ever going to forget. Here's another key. LaMarcus Aldridge is not going to play for the San Antonio Spurs. He basically won that game in the Smoothie King Center. Despite all the heroics of Zion in the fourth quarter, it was slow and steady for LaMarcus Aldridge all evening long, and the Pelicans were just not able to overcome it. That's another big piece of the San Antonio offense that is not going to be there for that game. So we'll see how it shakes up. You know, a lot has been talked about. The Pelicans have the easiest schedule in the restart. Well, guess what? The Pelicans were supposed to have the easiest schedule with 19 games left. So I'm tired of hearing that narrative. I think the NBA got it right. We're going to play the Kings twice. We're going to play the teams you're in direct competition with one time. Remember, we've already played Portland 4 times, so they aren't on the schedule. You were slated to play Orlando anyway. You were slated to play Washington anyway. So I think the NBA really got it right. And the Pelicans, look, I know there's going to be a lot of temptation to look at scoreboards, but really the Pelicans have to take care of their own business. Can't worry about what everybody else is doing, because a lot of the teams, when you're talking about Portland and San Antonio and Sacramento and Memphis, they're going to be playing each other. So yeah, one of those teams is going to lose, but one's going to win, obviously. So they're going to maintain ground with you. Pelicans, keep winning games. Don't worry about anybody else.
I love it, Todd. How did I know that slight little rant was coming? And a very good observation that you pointed out, that Zion Williamson has not gone against the Utah Jazz in the regular season, just in the preseason on October 11th. Well, there you have it, folks. Todd Graffagnini himself has spoken. You can view the full schedule right now on Pelicans.com or the Pelicans app. We will have complete coverage of practices as the team returns to the facility this week to prepare for Orlando. For Todd Graffagnini, I'm Caroline Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us.